And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage, and you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. Now, normally I do an introduction, but today's guest, I'll do a small introduction, kind of doesn't need one. So his name is Stephen M. R. Covey. He and I have known each other for a long, long time. If you don't know who he is the co-founder of Covey, Lincoln, Franklin Covey. He is the New York Times and #1 Wall Street Journal bestselling author of The Speed of Trust. He's got a new book coming out called Trust and Inspire, which I'm sure will go to the stratosphere as well. He's the former CEO of Covey Leadership. And what else can I say about Stephen other than an all-around great guy that I'm really excited to talk to today? So welcome, Stephen. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Peter. Great to be with you again. I always enjoy it.
So one of the things I love, not only about your work, but you're a rare bird from the perspective of you started in what I would call back of the house. So it took me a million years of just being a dork, reading zillions and zillions of books to ever have the epiphany to go, I wonder how any of these folks make a living. Like, because why would anyone think about this other than someone that's like obsessed with it, which is now what I do all day, every day. And I have the greatest job in the world. But like you started on the business side of thought leadership. So tell us about that, because you could probably teach us a few things there, I would hope.
Yeah. No, I've had two acts. And the first act was on the business side. And the second act is what I'm doing now on the thought leadership side. But they overlap, obviously. And so, yeah, when I was president and CEO of my father's firm, Covey Leadership Center, he had great ideas, as you know, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the
doesn't get better than that, right?
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. And so I was kind of charged with trying to figure out how to really scale this, how to really leverage this, the very nature of this podcast. How do we leverage this thinking, this idea in a way that could really impact a lot of people? Our primary goal, Peter, always was mission. But I also learned that if there's no margin, there's no mission. And so my job was to try to build a business model that would enable us to both scale the business and impact and reach more people, but also be something that could be profitable so that we could fund the business and we could grow the business and we could have some profit in the business, because without that margin, we wouldn't have nearly as robust a mission. And so that was my job.
Yeah. So I think that often folks pick a side. I'm focused on impact. I'm focused on income. And I'm like, no, that's the wrong answer, right? Because impact without the income isn't self-sustaining, right?
Yeah.
And then income without the impact, it's sort of like, well, why get out of bed? I guess you could do that.
Yeah.
But sort of what's the point there intellectually and just satisfaction wise?
Yeah. I really think it's a third alternative, that it's not either or, it can be and. And I think the best approaches are and, because like you say, you could just have great ideas where your whole goal is to make money, but that's without contribution to it and is not nearly as meaningful of an impact. And the flip side is true. You could have, a great mission, but if you don't have an ability to have a business from that, the mission is always going to be struggling to get out there. And we kind of early on, were in that latter camp. We had all these great ideas and we were trying to take it to everybody in no sequence, just get it out there. But the problem is. So
the take it to everybody problem, I see this all the time. So one of my parts of my, intake or whatever, when I'm talking to a potential client is describe for me who you think could benefit most from your work and why, right? And that's not a difficult question, but I think a lot of folks, they're so entrenched in their stuff that they don't put their business hats on and say, well, everyone could benefit from my work.
Right.
And my answer to that is, well, that's great, but we don't have the marketing budget of Coca-Cola that can market to everybody or Procter & Gamble. So we need to start making some decisions here and say, who would benefit the most? And, a piece of content, theoretically, there's few and far between, 7 Habits being one of them, that theoretically could be anybody can benefit from. But even when that's the case, you have to figure out where is the market going to reward it the most so that it can have a bit of a flywheel. Is it on the sales side of the house, the marketing side of the house, newly minted leaders? And the more you get focused on that, the easier it is, right? And you've made some mistakes, but you've done many things well along the way as well.
Absolutely. And And it's the curse of mission overreach, which is
Yeah.
because it can apply everywhere, and because you are mission driven, it's very easy to say, let's take it everywhere. And the problem with that is that you'll ultimately run out of margin to fund the mission. And we began to have that issue. And so we had to learn that, yes, we wanted to take 7 Habits everywhere, but by learning to take it first to businesses that had budgets and funding for it,
Yep.
and doing well with them, it enabled us to go to some of these other markets that we wanted to go to ultimately, be it education, be it government, and also even communities. But early on, we were trying to do everything at once. And as a result, the business model didn't fully work, and we were always running out of cash, always borrowing money and trying to, but I had this wonderful mission. And so I tried, when I came in, my whole goal was to not make it a dichotomy, to not say, hey, no more mission anymore. We're going to be a business. That wouldn't have gone over well in the culture or with my dad. And so instead I said, look, we're a mission driven business, but we need to be a business in order to have credibility and to be sustainable. But we're not an ordinary business that's just trying to make money. No, we're a mission driven business.
And that concept 20 some odd years ago was a radical concept. Now it seems like with corporate social responsibility, ESG, whatever, that every company is, or at least tries to project to the market that they are. But having that at your essence helps you make some decisions around, what's going to work for the culture and self-sustainable. I want to go down a different path for a moment before we get to the content of, given that you and I all, have a couple of gray hairs here, you've also seen the thought leadership world move from a largely analog, buy a book that lands with a thud, bring our consultants in to do workshops or keynotes or whatever, all analog things, deliverables. And they're all great deliverables. They still exist today. And then the power of digital, so that it gives you more ways to deliver the message and the content and to monetize it to more people. And it seems to be moving so quickly. And, it wasn't all that long ago that, a TED Talk was the short form content of 18 minutes, which is now War and Peace in terms of content length. But talk if you could, a little bit about sort of the balance or the transition, if you will, from analog to digital in many areas.
Yeah, no, this shift is enormous that's taking place. And here's the good news. The good news is still the power of ideas, of intellectual property that gets kind of codified is still the underlying engine.
Sure.
It's just that our mediums and our ways of spreading it is shifting and changing in extraordinary ways that can have a greater impact and also can even increase profitability as well, because of the fact that now suddenly there's possibilities and opportunities that maybe we didn't have before under the old analog model, of going out and doing it yourself and this and that. And even, I will say this, even the old analog model, we were at the forefront at pushing the envelope on that, doing things like creating certification and licensing.
Train the trainers and
the trainer. Yep. That sounds commonplace today. At the time, it wasn't. And it was seen as, well, why would you do that? Why would you do a certification?
Cannibalize, right.
Yeah, it'll take away your presenting days. But, you can reach a lot more people and you can do a lot more work. And so even some of the analog, there's some breakthrough thinking. And you have a similar thing happening today that enables you to move into whole new arenas, including, for example, like subscription and this type of thing where you can kind of codify. You still start with intellectual property, with ideas that are codified and branded and the like, but then you have now new ways of scaling it and of disseminating it and of also creating new business models for it, where suddenly, for example, a subscription approach could be valuable, and other approaches that you just didn't have in the analog model. I think in the digital model.
The trick today, because more choices give you more options to make good choices and bad choices, but getting really clear about who you're serving and how you're serving them helps you make decisions around the modalities, right? So even you look at where I think the most confusion lies is in social media. And I hear all the time, should I be on TikTok? Should I be on Instagram? Should I be on Clubhouse? And I'm like, well, where are your clients and potential clients? Where are the people you want to reach hanging out? It has nothing to do with you. Whether you like TikTok or not, it's not about you. Is that a place that A, is aligned to your brand, right? And what else are they what else are people talking about or doing there? Will it connect, or is it just noise, or is it the peer pressure of what everybody else is doing, right? And until you could sort of make the case business-wise, I would say you don't need to be the first kid on your block on TikTok or Insta or whatever. The market sort of will guide you where to go there.
Absolutely. The market sets par, and
Yeah.
and it guides you and it helps you. But I think that step of really understanding markets and customers, that the fundamental marketing step and really business step is the very first step. Understanding markets and customers, and starting with needs, and then the markets and customers, and then you figure out the channels and the modalities and the like. But too often, if you just jump right to the channels and the modalities and skip the understanding markets and customers, then we'll find ourselves again fragmented, trying to do too much across the board.
Sure.
And more options than ever before.
If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts.
And I think sometimes thought leaders are shocked on both sides, good, bad, ugly, whatever, that what they thought was the thing, wow, this is my most brilliant piece of intellectual property. This idea is it's the holy grail. And then the market says, not so much. And there might be something else that you put out there that you're like, well, it's okay, but it's, it's not my best. And for some reason that sticks to the market. Yeah. And you could be stubborn and say, but my better idea is the one they should like. No, sometimes people like what they like. And I wouldn't have bet on kale as the winning vegetable, but I don't know who kale's agent was. Like, here it is. It comes out of nowhere, right? Like it was a filler on the plate, and it's like, okay, people are into kale, so give them more kale,
Yeah. It's a little bit of, that proverb, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Exactly.
And when the market is clamoring for something or responding to something, well, great, that's relevant. It's obviously connecting in that way. And when you do thought leadership work, sometimes you're trying to push instead of pull the idea, and allowing the pull to take place is really important. I think of a movie coming out, you want the movie to be a artistic success, but also a commercial success. And sometimes you're like, I've got the artistic success, but you're lacking the commercial success. Occasionally it's the other way around, where you get this great commercial success, but you feel like that's not my best art. I've got better art than that. And so it's always this balancing act. But the market, speaks. In the long run, it's a really good gauge and guide. And so, but those are just some of the insights and learnings. I'll give you one last one. And again, I was on the front end of this. Even this is 35 years ago, even the decision to say, let's put the ideas in a book. I think I mentioned this in another podcast.
Yeah.
There literally was internal debate at the old Covey Leadership Center. Should we put 7 Habits in a book?
But why would they need us? It's all in there, right?
Yeah. They just buy the book. They will never bring us in. And that was a scarcity mindset, but it was also, back then it was a real debate. And then it became very clear, no. Of course you do it. And it will actually create more opportunity and reach more people. Because our mission was so clear, that became a no-brainer for us. But for a while, there was a little bit of wrestling. We actually had an outside consultant that came in and advised us not to put it in the book. And, imagine the impact we would have had. Nothing compared to what we have had. Right. So, all of this is shifting and changing, but there's some fundamental principles: understanding markets and customers, creating and codifying ideas that are robust, they represent the simplicity on the far side of complexity. You have to pay the price. Totally. You have to work through the complexity to come out with simplicity. That's a much more powerful idea.
Complexity is easy.
Yeah. And then finding the appropriate modalities to reach those customers with that idea, and not trying to do everything at once.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Those principles remain constant, even as modalities and channels change.
Last couple of minutes we have, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the book, because I'd love talking about the book. Coming on the heels of Speed of Trust, but I mean, that's 10 years old, 15 years old? It's
15 years old now, yes.
Wow. Oh my. So Speed of Trust is now a teenager. I can't believe it. So, I mean, the beauty of Speed of Trust was the trust tax and the trust dividend. How do you take a concept of trust and you took the speed, because the pre-existing literature was that trust was a byproduct of time, right? So if I didn't know you for 30 years, geez, whatever. And then you talk about the tax and the dividend, which is a beautiful framing. It's a great example of a solid IP because nobody likes taxes, everybody likes dividends, right? So regardless of your party affiliation, right? Like taxes bad, dividends good. So that was the gist of that book. Give me the gist of Trust and Inspire.
Yeah. Well, the gist is simply this, Peter, that our world has changed all around us, and we know it, we see it, we experience it. Our world has changed, but our style of leadership has not near enough. It hasn't kept pace with this new world of work, with a diverse workforce, with the need for collaboration, innovation, with disruptive technologies, all these changes. We're still operating with a leadership style that's fundamentally rooted in the old world, in the industrial age. I call it command and control. And what's happened is we've become better at it. We've become more advanced at it, more sophisticated, what I call enlightened command and control. But our paradigm is still rooted in the old model. And I'm saying in order to have, and this is a thought leadership idea, in order to have a true breakthrough, we need a break with traditional thinking. We need to break with command and control, not just incrementally improve it, but break with it into something that's different in kind. And that's what I'm calling trust and inspire, in contrast to command and control. Trust and inspire is the new way to lead in a new world. Trust and inspire is a way of thinking about people and about leadership that's more complete, more robust, more relevant for our times, for our day. It's not limited by the smaller thinking, the limited thinking that's part of a command and control paradigm of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Trust and inspire is all about seeing the potential for greatness inside of people and unleashing it instead of trying to contain and control it. And so it's all about the kind of leadership that's needed in a new world where we need to win in the workplace by winning the war for talent, attracting, retaining, engaging, and inspiring the best people, but also winning in the marketplace by being able to collaborate and innovate to stay relevant in a changing world. And you can't command and control your way to collaboration and innovation. You've got to do it through trust.
I think it's clearly the right message at the right time, right? Considering so many things going on in the world, but it's, I don't know if it was intended to be timely or the world just made it timely, but I think it's definitely a message we need to hear at the right time because, the days of command and control are over. And COVID put the nail in that coffin from the perspective of, the management by walking around. Well, if we're working remotely, hybrid, the way we work, where we work, everything is different. So why would that framework continue to be impactful and effective in a whole new universe? I love the concept there. So I wish you the best with the book.
I'll add one more thing.
Sure.
That we're all kind of clear that command and control is no longer relevant, and yet we're still operating in it for the most part, just in a more enlightened version of it. What we're less clear on is what we're moving toward. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to name it. I'm trying to describe it. Like Socrates says, the beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms. I'm saying if this is what we're moving from, command and control, what are we moving toward? Trust and inspire. It's very aspirational. It's very much where the world is going. Inspirational leadership, trusting, bringing out best, inspiring others. And the whole premise is everyone can inspire. Inspiring others is a learnable skill. It's not just for the charismatic. And it's a whole new way of thinking of that leadership. And so I'm trying to teach by contrast, which is, I think, a great thought leadership approach. And I'm also trying to name where it is that we're going in a way that is aspirational, but also it represents, isn't that what we want? To be trusted, to be inspired. We all want that. Others want it too. And this is a new way to lead in a new world because it will help us build a great culture so we win that war for talent. And you can't command and control your way to that. It'll help us collaborate and innovate to stay relevant in this changing world. And you can't command and control your way to that. So trust and inspire is the new way to lead in a new world. That's the big idea behind the book.
Love it. Love the big idea. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen.
Absolutely.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.